So today I will focus on inclusion, and these are the main points that I would like to address. Looking at the priority areas, so how many times today we saw this graph? So our Bonn colleagues should be very happy. That means that we are paying a really good attention, yes, on what we should be doing and how to support implementation of these priority areas. And you can see that I highlighted two because both of them are talking about inclusion. Yes, so we are talking about inclusive economies and we are talking about inclusive and peaceful societies. So that just highlights again how important the issue is when we are planning our job or when we are developing our research projects. And what I observed, I was very lucky that in May I was able to visit a number of UNEVOC centers in Europe, and I observed that through official TVET or formal TVET, the issue of inclusivity has been addressed in a nice, interesting ways across European countries. And for example, Cameta, which is a UNEVOC center in Italy, or Omnia, which is a UNEVOC center in Finland, they all accept marginalized or disadvantaged groups of students, and they're developing very interesting programs to address their needs. However, the issue is that we need to address the needs of the groups that cannot be reached by the formal TVET. And that was a starting point in my thinking and in developing the research projects on which I would like to report today. But before that, I want to relate to a number of areas. Why should we pay attention to these inclusive features of TVET? And you can see here just a small list of reasons, yes. So the first one is promoting social inclusion. So we want to provide an equal access for all disadvantaged groups, empower disadvantaged groups through skills development, so enhancing their employability, then bridging the skills gap, so targeted training that is required for the labor markets for our disadvantaged groups, fostering economic growth so we can reach untapped talents and also help to produce more efficient and creative workforce, enhancing social cohesion. So we are looking at the diversity backgrounds, and when they're coming together, we have a better society. And the last one that I mentioned here is the skills allowed to enter labor market. So there are good enough reasons, yes, to pay attention to this issue. So as I mentioned, this issue of how to reach or provide access to the most disadvantaged groups that are probably not even eligible to be to access TVET programs. And when we are talking about Hong Kong, we have refugees and asylum seekers who doesn't have the right to access TVET, formal TVET. So we always back on my mind is green transition. So here you can see these 3 points that were the starting point for the project that I had with my PhD student. So the well-being of refugees and asylum seekers, sustainable urban development, and education for sustainable development. And as we all know, Sustainable Development Goal number 11 is talking about sustainable cities and communities, and to achieve that, we all need to contribute. All stratas of society need to contribute. And so that was our conceptualization, how we can bring together empowerment for these disadvantaged groups and also the ideas that are behind sustainable development and education for sustainable development pedagogy. So you can see that we decided to address this issue at different levels, personal, social, and community levels, and also use the ideas of education for sustainable development pedagogy to reach this group, and also pay special attention on the social entrepreneurship. Yes, because today it has been said several times that informal economy is really important for many societies, including Hong Kong. So, as you might know, that we developed these resources some time ago. Actually started with a project supported by UNESCO UNEVOC Center, and after that we are trying to see how we can use them in different areas. So we spent a lot of time on developing capacity for teachers, changing curriculum, and now we are paying attention to communities. So what we can do in terms of engaging communities into the same processes. So we picked up 21 concepts that we believe is important to construct curriculum or to develop programs for training teachers. And we have been using several of them for our project with refugees and asylum seekers. So this is how our website look like, and I just want to highlight one more time that we have these concepts. Here, there is an example of green technology and closed loop economy, but we also have examples from the industries, just to provide illustrations how industry is greening in real life situations. And that was really very helpful for the students because they can see how the ideas have been applied in practice. And also, as you can see, each resource pack has 3 components. So one is a description of the concept or the case study. Then it is a student activity sheet and the teacher guidelines to help teachers to prepare for the classes. And this one, for example, we used with the refugees that is related to the waste management. And here we have an example from Hong Kong, and waste management is a really big problem in our context. So majority of us, I believe, know about these 5 R's, starting from refuse and going to recycle. So that also framed our approach towards training. And we applied different strategies to promote inclusivity through our project. So we create and support inclusive learning environments that accommodate diverse needs of refugees and asylum seekers. And we have been working with women, and they also were allowed to bring kids to our workshops, because most of them didn't have a chance to leave kids at home, or they don't have nannies or childcare facilities to do that. And it was a really good engagement between mothers and kids. So then we adopted teaching methods that help to address different needs of the people who were engaged in our workshops. And also we provide appropriate support that relates to materials, resources, and also flexibility in terms of attendance. So in terms of education for sustainable pedagogy, we of course realize that we need to have activities in which the participants can be engaged. So we included practical activities. And so each issue that we discussed were framed by the context of sustainable urban development. And of course, it's a very small font, but you can see how we structure this intervention or the workshops. We had a number of workshops where we address different concepts and also have different practical activities. And you can see that we focused on recycle, reuse, refuse, etc. So this is just the example of the typical workshop. We discuss the concepts. We are asking refugees and asylum seekers to be engaged in discussing these concepts. We provide them materials, teaching and learning materials. Also, then we discuss the case study, and then we have a practical workshop where we showed them how to recycle soap, how to recycle cooking oil, how to recycle the leftovers from textile industry. And you can see that our mothers and kids, they were working together. They were very happy with the products. And one of the ideas why we started that was the results of our previous research, when the companies said that they don't have a green value chain, so they don't have enough small companies that can help them to recycle, in particular our hotels. And so we're thinking, okay, we will train our refugees with that skills, but of course in Hong Kong, the government, the policy does not allow them to establish social enterprises. So that's why in November, like in 2 weeks, we're starting a similar project, but with ethnic minorities. And our real purpose is to establish a number of social enterprises based on these recycling practices. And so we observed, of course, a huge change in understanding and behavior of our participants, because we conducted it as a research study. So we did a survey and interviews before, and then observations during, and then also survey and interviews at the end of, group interview at the end of our intervention. And we saw that the women felt very knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable about the issues of environmental protection. They also felt that they can contribute, at least at the level of their homes. And also they said that we learned a lot of things, and in particular we have some Filipino participants, and they said when we are going back to the country, we definitely establish an enterprise there. And so they also felt very good, because they said, okay, we can contribute to the community where we're living. And prior to that, they felt really powerless because of these policies that currently we have in the city. So we know how difficult it is to transform values into behavior, and there are different research identified a number of mediating factors that might help us to transform values into behavior. And here you can see the first one is personal relevancy, then self-efficacy, or our, so what is our level of belief? Can we contribute to change or not? Yes, so our self-efficacy, and then self-control, and also emphasis on the greening of industries and skills. Does it exist in society or in the context, or this is something new that no one cares? And so you can see that self-efficacy is totally relying on the skills. So if the person has the skills and capacity to deliver change, so they believe in that and they start changing their behavior. And this is what we observed with our participants. So reflections on our training. So training was very positively accepted by the participants, and they said that it has an impact on their well-being, because they raised their awareness about sustainability issues and their ability to contribute to the bigger cause of reduce recycle approach that the government is promoting in Hong Kong. And also it provides them a knowledge how to organize them the social enterprise based on the ideas of greening. And so they said that it is a really interesting opportunity for them for the future. And of course, the major challenge was related to the legislation that doesn't allow them to do that in Hong Kong. So the conclusion, if you look at the policies, whenever we talk about policies, they're all the same. We need to develop a good policy, then we need to provide funding to implement them, and we need someone to monitor them. So nothing new about that, but it is exactly true for our Hong Kong case in terms of refugees. We really need this. And then effective strategies for promoting inclusivity in vocational education. So this supportive and inclusive learning environment, then inclusive teaching methods that we applied, and also personalized learning and instructions. And it was very nice to observe that participants also helping each other. And they asked us to continue our training, but we did this through the NGO, and so they learned how to do that. So now they continue to do this without our engagement. And then appropriate support we need to provide, of course, when we are training disadvantaged groups. And then challenges that relates to the limited resources, negative attitudes in society towards asylum seekers, and also lack of awareness are very common across all contexts. And also there is a need for advocacy, for funding and resources, professional development for educators so they can address the needs of this community in different societies. And also contribution to sustainable urban development. Our study and intervention supports the idea that, yes, we can raise the awareness and they can apply skills at home and potentially they can apply skills in real life so they can generate their income. So thank you very much.